The fuck?
Tom, stop laughing. This is a serious matter right now. I can't believe it. Oh my god. You can't find good help anywhere these days.
It's me.
Jesus.
Not good help.
The great help. That's what you are, bud.
Anyways,
we have another episode today. We're going back in time. We are talking about Oath to the Gatewatch. It is the last installment of the Battle for Zendikar block. Came out in January 22nd, 2016. Now, this set features 2 Planeswalker cards, Chandra, Flamecaller, and Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. Now, I want to get over into the themes and mechanics, but my name is Kyle.
my name is John Cena. I'm just kidding. Tom. My name's Tom.
And this is Gaslight Upkeep, baby.
Why are we doing it again?
Like and subscribe, all right? I need more followers.
Please and thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go over to the themes and mechanics. Tom, why don't you get into it?
But before, my name's Kyle.
And this is Tomatha.
Hey, this is Gaslight Upkeep, baby. All right,
Pee-wee.
themes and mechanics, guys. All
I
right.
can't hear you with that speech impediment. Do you mind speaking normal?
Themes and mechanics.
That's actually how he sounds normally. Don't let him fool you.
There,
You know nobody's watching. We're 2 minutes in and they don't even know what we're talking about.
There are 3 new name mechanics.
No, they're not. This came out in 2016, you phony.
So, themes and mechanics. There are 3 new name mechanics that came out during the set. First, you have the Surge. It's a cost. Basically, you may cast this spell for its Surge cost if you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn. And then for support N, basically you're going to put a +1/+1 counter of each up to N targets, right? So you'll see that it'll be like support 6, right? And then you'll put 6 +1/+1 counters, or you'll put a +1/+1 counter on 6 target creatures. And then you have cohort and ability word for activated abilities requiring tapping the ally creature or another ally. So you're going to be seeing some ally tribal cards in this deck or in this set. And to express the theme of planeswalkers forming a team with game mechanics, basically research and development also created cards that encourage the players to have multiple planeswalker cards. And so you'll be seeing those types of mechanics in there. And then last but not least, landfall is reused in this set, but in a minor capacity, right? There's embodiment of fury and embodiment of insight, which is envisioned as a cycle. And likewise, white and blue each have uncommon creatures that are Wall of Resurgence and Cyclone Sire that essentially have the Awakened mechanic. Technically, the mechanic only works on instants and sorceries, so it had to be spelled out in the rules text. And so we'll have a couple examples show up there. But anyways, from that point, I think we're all set to go right into story time, Kyle.
Story time. Story time. What time is it? It's time for story. 4 planeswalkers, Gideon, Jace, Chandra, and Nissa, join forces in their battle against the Eldrazi Titans, Ulamog and Kozilek, and the demonic planeswalker Ob Nixilis. They become the Gatewatch, a team with a lasting commitment to protect the people of the multiverse from the threats that no one else can handle. The 6 cards that represent the pivotal moments of the storyline are Kozilek's Return, Remorseless Punishment, Call to the Gatewatch, Bonds of Mortality, Fall of the Titans, and Zendikar Resurgent. So these are the ones that you want to look out for in case you want to collect the story in card form.
We just basically got ourselves a nice big team fight between the good guys versus the bad guys.
Yeah, I remember when you originally wrote this script for the story time and you called them the damn Mighty Morphing Power Rangers.
Still do.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was story time. We're going to head over to my commander. All right. We're going to go to choose your commander. Mine is going to be Jory and Ruin Diver. It's one generic and Is It colors. Very uncomfortable with the Is It color block for myself. It's just too many spells, too many triggers going on, but I'm trying to get better about it. It is a legendary Merfolk wizard, 2/3. Its ability is whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. So this is going to be a wheels deck, it's going to be a storm deck. It's red, blue. When isn't it either of those? But one of the combos that I liked a lot about the Is It color scheme, yeah, Nib Mizzet, Perun, and Curiosity put together. It's a very common combo piece that gives you unlimited damage and unlimited draw. Well, realistically 93 draw, depending on when you have, how many cards you have in your deck left. Obviously, you're not getting Niv Mizzet out very soon. I don't really know too many blue or red cards that allow you to cheat creatures out onto the battlefield, do you?
Cheating creatures out onto the battlefield?
I don't know any of them.
Copy cards if you're copying bigger creatures.
True. Yeah. No, that makes sense. But yeah, like Spark Double.
And then there's also, in red, they have the cards where you can put a creature on the battlefield, it attacks, and then you either have to like sacrifice it. There's a few that are like that, and then you have to sacrifice it at the end of combat or at the end of the turn, or you have to put it back in your hand at the end of the turn.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of ways.
Okay, well...
If I was you, coming from a Is It player that loves Is It, you want to have very low to the ground curve, because basically what you want to do is always cast your second spell. So a couple things that you want to do. I always recommend putting Relic Legends, I think it's called. Basically, that's going to be a double mana, because guess what? That can tap for a mana. It can also tap your Jory for a mana. So let's say you have that out, 3 mana out. You play Jory. Yeah,
isn't it like Relic of Legends or something?
Relic of Legends, yeah. And then at this point, when you're at that position, turn 4, when you have 3 lands out, you have Relic of Legends out. Play a land, play Jory. You'll have 3 mana at that point, because Jory can tap, Relic can tap, and that extra land can tap. Now you have the position where, guess what? Now you can play 3 of those lands. If you have cards that are 1 mana cost, because you want to stay low to the ground as much as possible, you're going to be getting that second cast trigger a lot more. It's not an easy deck to build, but it's a different play style, and you have to really pay attention to the mana like curve that you have.
Yeah, I mean, the things that I'm seeing, through EDH Rec are Quicken, Opt, as well as that Fiery Inscription, Gutter Snipe, just things that are allowing you, whenever you play instants or sorceries, to deal damage, or draw cards, or scry cards, or, giving flash to them so that you can cast second spells on opponent's turns so that you can continuously be dealing damage as well as drawing your deck out. Wave Break Hippocamp is going to be an extra utility card because it allows you to draw a card whenever you cast your first spell during your opponent's turn, and you're going to be doing that with blue and red. So that's going to be very useful for it, but that's why it's going to be my commander. I did buy the precon for Outlaws of Thunder Junction so that I could start having some foundation towards building my first Is It deck. We're going to head over onto Tom's commander. Tom, what do you got going on as far as your commander?
Something I don't usually build are colorless decks. I don't build these, but I can figure it out. And I'll tell you right now, there's 2 cards that always stand out every time I play against them. It's actually, I have to say what my commander
Might
is.
want to tell them.
Yeah.
That'd help.
Yeah, it would help. So, Kozlik, the Great Distortion. It is 10 generic mana. And when you cast Kozlik Great Distortion, if you have fewer than 7 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. And then it has Menace, comes out as a 12/12, and it also has the text, discard a card with converted mana cost X, counter spell with converted mana cost X. So in my eyes, this is what you want to do with this commander. You want to get it on the battlefield as quick as possible. And so Mana Rocks, Mana Ramp, Forsaken Monument, right? Being able to reduce, or not reduce, but have your permanents that tap for colors tap for double the amount. It's basically like having a Nissa or Mirari's Awaken.
Are you talking about Nissa Resurgent Animist from?
No, I'm talking about Nissa, the Awaken of the Woods. No, I forget.
The Planeswalker?
It's the Planeswalker that double taps green, or your lands tap for twice, for additional mana. Ugin the Ineffable, right? Because now your colorless spells cost 2 less to cast. That Mystic Forge in here. There's a number of staple colorless cards that you're throwing in this deck, and staple, artifacts. So,
Can you stop licking him?
that
But that's going to be your commander?
is my commander.
Good. Well, we've finished our commanders. Next up, we're going to Fire Faves.
And if a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile that card, and you're going to put a 2/2 zombie creature token onto the battlefield. The other ability is you can pay 2 and a black, and you can sacrifice another vampire or zombie and put 2+1/+1 counters on Kalidas Trader Get. Yeah, Kalidas is very subpar, if you ask me. And, as far as it goes, it's probably the only one that's good because of that second sentence where if a creature would die, instead you're creating a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And so in this case, it's literally I kill all your stuff and then I make creatures. And then next I do have Eiley, Eternal Pilgrim, Orzhov, legendary creature, core cleric. Comes out as a 2/3 Death Toucher. You pay 1 mana, sacrifice a creature, gain life equal to the sacrifice creature's toughness, or you can pay 1 in Orzhov, sacrificing the creature, and you can exile a target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only if you have at least 10 life or more than your starting life total. Really, that second ability is what I want that for. Being able to exile a target non-land permanent for sacrificing, it's basically an eaten alive for 3 mana now. But now you can have it as many times as long as you have 10 or more life. And I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cheap commander for somebody if you're making a life gain deck, even though life gain has kind of really fallen off on the popularity. I mean, a lot of people hate it. I honestly have one deck for it. I don't mind it.
I'll have moments where I like life gain. I have moments.
Yeah, some of the best commanders that I'm seeing for it are Aura, Skyclave Hierophant, Amalia Benavides Aguirre, which is the Vampire Scout, Ellis Ilcor, the obvious one as well. And then we got a couple of our partner friends up here. I'm not going to be on, I haven't made anything like that. I see them coming back, though. I feel like I see more and more players having a partner deck or a friends deck or whichever one you want to call where you can have 2 different ones.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's like if I'm playing very casual, then I'd play these cards. Otherwise, I really wouldn't play them.
Yeah, unfortunately, our casual is like power 8 and above. So it's kind of hard to have a casual game with that. When you see people pulling out their 0-cost mana rocks.
I have 0 mana cost mana rocks.
That is a lie. No, it's not actually, because Urza Saga is a land.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your best friend got
As I have an Urza Saga.
Yeah. But those are going to be our Fire Faves. Please let us know in the comments if there are any cards that you would have chosen in your Fire Faves that are still usable in today's Magic, because heck, we love learning. But we're going to head over to our Slayer Nay segment next. Stay tuned. We are on to the Slay
or Nay.
I'm going to start off with the red cards. We're going to start with Chandra, Flamecaller, 4 generic, 2 red. It's a Planeswalker. Starts with 4 loyalty counters on it. Its +1 ability is put 2 3/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste onto the battlefield. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. Then its 0 cost is going to be discard all the cards in your hand. Then draw that many cards +1. And its -X ability is Chandra, Flamecaller, deals X damage to each creature. That's 6 mana cost. Makes it so undesirable in today's Magic, in my eyes.
It's a nay for me.
Yeah, it's an absolute nay. It's cool with the 0 cost, discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards +1. But other than that, I don't really see it, especially for that mana cost. There's plenty of other cheat cards that you can do with red that are much better and much faster.
The one thing that is helping this card is that -X ability, where you can deal X damage to each creature. But That's also to each creature. 4 is your maximum at that point. Hopefully, they're less than 4. But 6 mana, 3 damage board wipe kind of sucks. Yeah. And then the +1 is pretty useless at defending yourself. You're only getting 6 damage out on the battlefield right then and there. I don't know. I really don't see this being that great. Especially if you're behind.
Not in today's landscape, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a nay for me.
It's a nay.
What do we got next?
Tyrant of Valakut. 2 red, 5 generic creature dragon, comes out as a 5/4 with flying. When Tyrant of Valakut enters the battlefield, if its surge cost was paid, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Surge, basically, you may cast a spell for its surge cost, which in this case, the surge is 3 generic, 2 red, 5 mana total. If you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn. So if this was the second spell, it's 5 mana. I say this is aight if you pay it with the surge cost, but of course that's going to require you to pay, another spell for another spell. But besides that, I don't know. 7 mana is really bad on this thing. 5 mana is okay. Is it a slay? No. I still think it's a nay.
It's a nay, especially even the best opportunity is to put it in a dragon tribal deck, but there are plenty of other dragons out there in today's landscape that allow this to be put to the side.
Yeah, Terror of the Peaks is 5 mana, same damage, also flying. Now it's every other creature that's entering the battlefield.
Well, Terror of the Peaks is it deals damage to target creature or player, well, any target, but it's to its mana cost. So it's even better because if I'm playing, if I put Terror of the Peaks out and then I put a Miram out.
Is it mana cost? I thought it was
mana cost.
It's mana cost.
Because it's, anytime a creature comes out into the field. So, or, no, it's its power. You were right. It's its power.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right. But it's an absolute nay. What's the last one on the red one, Tom?
Fall of the Titans. 2X generic, or in this case, XX red. And you can also pay surge cost X red, which probably is more ideal. Fall of the Titan deals X damage to each of up to 2 targets and or players. I really like this, just the fact that of the surge cost.
Yeah, the surge cost is what makes this playable in today's climate.
Yeah, because Fall of the Titan deals X damage to each of up to 2 target creatures and or players. And if you pay the surge cost, you can possibly knock out 2 players in one go.
I can see this in my Rowan and Scion of War deck.
Yeah, I can see it in there.
Yeah, so I'm going to give this a slay. So at least we got 1 out of the reds.
I'll give it a slay.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we've got green up. And of course, I made these cards so freaking small.
You can zoom in.
No, zooming in is for the weak. Use your eyes. Just kidding, there's so much going on here. We're going to start out with Oath of Nissa. It's 1 green mana. It's a legendary enchantment. When Oath of Nissa enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature, land, or planeswalker card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in an order. As well as that, you may cast mana. Well, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast planeswalker spells. So in a Super Friends deck, this card is an absolute slay. It's 1 mana, and you're getting to be able to look at the top 3 cards of your library and reveal a creature, land, or planeswalker. Put it into your hand. So green's giving you that draw ability that you don't see too much unless you've got strong beefy boys up there, or girls. So I like this card a lot for that, on top of the fact that it is also mana fixing for your planeswalkers. That's why it's absolutely going in a Super Friends deck that has green in it. Any thoughts?
It's 1 mana. I mean, very low to the ground. I think it's a great utility card for sure. It's a slay.
Absolute slay. So I think we should take out this next one and just go to.
No, I like it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I thought it was a good one.
Fine.
I think it's a great one.
Talk about it then.
Zendikar Resurgent. Yes. 5 generic, 2 green enchantment. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. And whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. It's a Mirari's Wake combined with a Great Henge in a sense. Or it wouldn't be a Great Henge. It would be Beast Whisper. Yep. And so I think that's pretty good. For 7 mana, that's right around the cost that you want it to be for, double land tap and also draw for casting creatures. I think that's a fair price. 7 mana is pretty easy to get to when you're in green. I'd say it's a slay.
Too high of a cost. I wouldn't. I took out Mirari's Wake, so too high for me. I wouldn't play this card.
Crazy.
Died a little bit. So nay! Sylvan Advocate is the next one. 1 generic, 1 green. It is an elf druid ally. All you tribal elf players out there. 2/3 comes in with vigilance. As long as you control 6 or more lands, Sylvan Advocate and land creatures you control get +2/+2. So I'm thinking Omnath, Locus of Rage. You're putting this in that deck so that you can start turning your lands into creatures as well. I think that this is a pretty good utility card. Would I put this in would I put this in my elf deck? Depends if it has landfall abilities in it. Like, I can think of, it's not elf, but I'm thinking of Tetiova, Bendic Druid. This could be fun in as well if you start turning your lands into creatures. But it's kind of limited to those types of parameters or conditions. So I'm going to give it a nay.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a nay too.
All right. So, and then we have the last one for green. What is it?
Blade Heart Calvary. 5 generic, 2 green, creature elf knight. Comes out as a 6/6, and when it enters the battlefield, supports 6. So you're going to put a +1/+1 counter of each up to 6 other target creatures. And whenever a creature you support with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, you gain 2 life. For 7 mana, I'd say it's garbage.
Absolute nay in today's climate. I mean, there's...
Yep.
All right, so we're going to go over to blue. Sphinx of the Final Word, which is the card I was reading. 5 generic, 2 blue. It's a Sphinx, 5/5. Sphinx of the Final Word can't be countered. It comes in with flying and hexproof. Instants and sorcery spells you control can't be countered by spells or abilities. Way too high of a mana cost. There's a lot better cards out there instead that cost way less. I don't like that mana cost. That 7 mana cost is a little too high. Because in mono blue, or if it's not in Simic, you're not really ramping up nearly as fast to be able to play something like this. What are your thoughts?
Could have just ended it with a nay. Anyways, we got Hedron Alignment coming up next. 2 generic blue enchantment. It has hexproof, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may reveal your hand. If you do, win the game if you own a card named Hedron Alignment in exile, in your hand, in your graveyard, and on the battlefield. Yep, this card is not going to work in Commander.
Hot garbage for Commander.
It's hot garbage for Commander.
So absolute nay.
Yeah, there's no way.
All right, we've got Oath of Jace. 2 generic, 1 blue. Legendary enchantment. When Oath of Jace enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry X, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. 3 mana for this. Not liking it. The only way that I could see... I really can't. It's Super Friends only these days. Maybe in a scry deck, if you're really trying to forcefully put this in a deck as well. But this is going to be a nay for me.
It's a nay.
All right, we've got Crush of the Tentacles, last for the blue. 4 generic, 2 blue. It's a sorcery. Got a Surge cost, 3 generic, 2 blue as well. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If Crush of Tentacles Surge cost was paid, put an 8/8 blue octopus creature token onto the battlefield. This is a slightly better, what is it, Rivers Rebuke? Yeah, right? It's a slightly better, and the only reason I say slightly better is you're at least getting to put an 8/8 octopus creature onto the battlefield as well.
I wouldn't call it a Rivers Rebuke. Rivers Rebuke is different, just because it's target opponent.
Oh, that's right. Because this one's return
this
all.
This is closer to like a Flood of Tears, where you're returning all non-land permanents. But for 5 mana to return all non-land permanents and to get an 8/8 Kraken or Octopus, I actually think that's really good.
It's the only saving grace as of right now.
This is, well, that it's 5 mana if you get the Surge cost. 6 mana is okay.
Well, you still have to technically pay 6 mana because of the fact that you have to play another spell.
That's whatever.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying off of that. But I'm going to say nay. I wouldn't put this in any deck.
I'll give it a slay.
That's perfect.
I actually could find some spots for this deck, especially in some Storm decks, because chances are you're going to play a 1 mana or 0 mana cost spell. And then you get to play Crush of Tentacles for the Surge cost, get an 8/8 Octopus, return all non-land permanents. This is a good board wipe.
Okay. What do we got next up for the black cards?
So, Remorseless Punishment. 3 generic, 2 black, sorcery. Target opponent loses 5 life unless that player discards 2 cards or sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Repeat this process once. Meh.
I didn't even bother to.
It's a nay.
It's a nay. Nay for me as well. Next up, we've got Drana's Chosen. 3 generic, 1 black. It is a Vampire Shaman ally. 2/2. It's got the Cohort ability. Tap it. Tap it untapped. Well, you have to tap Drana's Chosen.
True.
And then you have to tap an untapped ally you control. Put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. Absolute nay.
Yeah,
everything's
coming in tap. You're tapping your own stuff.
You're
wide open.
You need to have an ally as well. So this is now strictly for ally decks, and I have never really worked with them. So clearly they're not too powerful in today's Magic. Maybe they are. Tell me I'm an idiot. I don't understand it if it is. So absolute nay. I'm gonna do this one as well, just because of how fast we were able to say nay on that last one. Null Caller. Vampire Shaman, it is 3 generic, 1 black, 2/4 coming in. 3 generic, 1 black, exile a creature card from your graveyard, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. Absolute nay. What was Wizards thinking talking about putting things in tapped onto the battlefield, especially a creature? Now I don't have a blocker. No thank you.
Yeah, it's a nay.
Alright, what do we got for the last one?
Sifter of Skulls. I love the name on this thing. It's pretty cool.
It's probably why you put it on this.
3 generic black. Creature Eldrazi has the Void. Comes out as a 4/3. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token onto the battlefield that has the ability to sacrifice this creature, add blank, or add colorless to your mana pool. I think this is aight. The real question is if it can be a slay, and I think it has the potential. What really kills me is the fact that it says whenever a non-token creature you control dies. But in a sacrifice black deck, I think this is pretty good for 4 mana, because at least this point you can. It's almost like having an Ashnod's Altar. The only difference is that Ashnod's Altar does twice the amount of mana, and you can sacrifice any number of cards, and you'll get that mana. I think it's okay. I'll give it a slay. I'm just gonna say it right now. Yeah, I'll give it a slay.
All right, slay it is. Next up, we've got the white cards. We've got General Tazri. As our first one, 4 generic, 1 white. It's a human ally. It's a 3/4. When General Tazri enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an ally creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then you can pay Wooburg. Ally creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of colors among those creatures. So this is pretty much where that ally tribal comes in. This is going to be the card, I'm guessing, that allows you to make an ally deck. I don't see too many others. Plus, I got so many of these, and I don't even remember which reprinted block that I just never even bothered to touch it. What are your thoughts?
Hey, I wouldn't touch it either.
Nay, it is. What do we got next?
Linvala the Preserver, 4 generic, 2 white, legendary creature, angel. Comes out as a 5/5 flyer. When Linvala the Preserver enters the battlefield, if an opponent has more life than you gain 5 life. And when Linvala enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a 3/3 angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. 6 mana, potentially gain 5 life, and potentially put another 3/3 flyer on the battlefield. Subpar. I'm gonna give it a nay.
Nay, it is. Nay, it is, because it's too much for what it gives you.
Too slow.
Oh, thank you.
And if you have the most life, typically you might, and you have more creatures, because typically you might, you're in white, you're probably not getting those extra boosts. So it's an A.
Nay, it is. We've got Reflector Mage up next. 1 generic and blue and white. Human Wizard 2/3. It's Azorius, by the way. When Reflector Mage enters the battlefield, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. That creature's owner can't cast spells with the same name as that creature until your next turn. I like this. This is for creature-centric decks where you want your creatures to do abilities that instants and sorceries are doing. So I would put this in my Chulane deck potentially, just to get some extra protection out there. Get rid of your big scary monster. So that is why I am going to give it a slay.
Yeah, in a blink deck, it's really good.
Exactly. So there's some versatility in there. Then the last one we have is Oath of Gideon, 2 generic, 1 white, legendary enchantment. When Oath of Gideon enters the battlefield, put 2 1/1 white core ally creature tokens onto the battlefield. Each planeswalker you control enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on it. I have this in my Atraxa Grand Unifier deck. So absolute slay when it comes to putting this in a Super Friends deck. Absolute nay if you're not putting it in a planeswalker centric deck.
Exactly.
Boom. So that's going to be all the ones that we have for white. We're going to go over to the lands. Tom, what do we got for lands?
All right, Seagate Wreckage. You can tap it, add generic to your mana pool, or you can pay 2 or pay 3, tap it, draw a card, activate this ability if you have no cards in hand. I'm just going to say it. It's a slay. The fact that you can draw a card, I think that's awesome.
I think it is too, especially when you have no cards in hand.
Yeah, it's just a nice little card to have just in case.
Yeah, that little bit of cushion, as we like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
We have Mirror Pool up next. Comes into the battlefield tapped. Add 1 generic to your mana pool or colorless mana. Then you can tap 2 colorless and then a colorless mana on top of that, so 3 in total. Tap it, sacrifice Mirror Pool, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Then for 4 generic and a colorless, so 5 in total, tap it. As well, sacrifice Mirror Pool, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature you control. This is awesome.
For a land, I think it's pretty cool.
For a land, just to have that little extra oomph in your back pocket, you get this for a land. Mm-hmm. Now, what do we have for the last 2?
Hissing Quagmire enters battlefield tap. You can tap it, add a black or a green to your mana pool, or you can pay Golgari and generic, and it becomes a 2/2 green elemental, black-green elemental creature with death touch until end of turn. It's still land. Hey, you know what? It's a 2/2 Death Toucher that for 3 mana. I say this could get you out of Hinch sometimes, so I think it's pretty solid. Death Touching's nice. It's a slay.
Absolutely. What's the last one?
Ruins of Oran Reef. Comes in tapped. add a generic. You can tap it, add a generic to your mana pool, or you can tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on target colorless creature that entered the battlefield this turn. Yeah, I think this is okay when it comes to the colorless cards. If you're playing colorless, this matters. Yeah,
Slay.
we'll give it a slay.
Slay. The lands were pretty good in this set.
Yep.
All right, we've got some colorless cards up next. We have Thought Not Seer. 3 generic and 1 colorless, so 4 in total. It's an Eldrazi. It's a 4/4. When Thought Not Seer enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it and exile that card. When Thought Not Seer leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. I like it. In a creature-centric deck, it's a little high on the mana cost for it, but it does have a lot of utility with that. What are your thoughts?
I don't like it.
I'm going to give it a slay. You give it a nay.
It's a nay for me.
All right. Next, we've got Stoneforge Masterwork. It's an equipment. 1 generic to cast it, 2 to equip it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. I think this could be fun in any tribal deck. Anything where you're trying to just get as much out there. You know, I can see this in my Goshintai deck potentially. Would I really put it in there? I'd have to want to put it in there. So this is more of a sideboard card, but it does have the opportunity to be put in the 99 in my eyes. So I'm going to give it a slay still.
Yeah, I'll give it a slay because there will be times where you just flood the board with an insane amount of tokens, and who knows? Like, if you're running the Myco Tyrant, I think this is great because you can name plants, and then boom, all of a sudden your plant creatures are ridiculous now.
Oh, aren't they fungus?
Fungus.
Just making sure. But that's going to be a slay. We've got Warden of Geometries. Eldrazi drone 4 generic to cast it. It's a 2/3 with vigilance. Tap it, add 1 colorless to your mana pool. This is a little high cost for a mana dork, but it still has the opportunity for it in an Eldrazi deck. I probably wouldn't put it in one, but maybe you guys would, or girls. Maybe you're better than me. Probably are. So it's a nay for me. What about you?
It's a nay.
Negatory. Walker of the Waste. 4 generic, 1 colorless. What is it, Tom?
Man, I thought you were going to read right through it. All right, it's a creature Eldrazi for 5 mana, 4/4. Trample. Walker of the Waste gets +1/+1 for each land you control named Waste. Once again, works great in that colorless deck style. But what I think is cool is that it's getting a +1/+1 for each land you control. That is kind of insane because you're going to have 5 wastes at that time. It's getting +5/+5. It comes out as a 9/9 trample. I think that's a slay.
It's a slay, especially in the new Eldrazi that have just come out. This would be good for it.
Yep.
And it's going to be expensive to get all those wastelands.
Are they that expensive?
I mean, I don't know if they're that expensive right now, but like snowlands are not that cheap. That's going to be all of our Slayer Nays. This is going to be the conclusion to our episode. Next block that we are going to get into after this are the Khans of Tarkir block. We're going to start out with Khans of Tarkir and then go down the list. There are 2 more expansions after that one. So please let us know in the comments below what we missed, what you liked, what you didn't like. Call us an idiot. Anything is good enough in our eyes, you know, as long as you have some form of retention with us. Would love to see that subscriber list go up as well. So if you could hit that like button and subscribe too, that would be really appreciated. It gives us motivation to keep doing this.
We appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. So as always, stay gaslit, my friends.
Stay litty.
See you next time.